What's good, guys? Welcome back to another episode. So, I've decided again for another new series that we're going to do starting on Thursdays. So, just like way back Wednesday and where I've got Starfield on Tuesday and Saturday, you can expect something of the sort like this every week. If not, it'll be most weeks. This is something I'm just trying, so we'll really see how much I really feel like doing this. But this is by far the most effort I've ever put into any of this shit. So I'd really appreciate if you enjoy this to hit the follow, hit the sub, hit a like, you know what I mean? Come back for more because I'm definitely gonna do more stuff like this, whether y'all like it or not. I actually think I enjoyed doing this. We'll see how long that lasts, but let's get into it. So what are we talking about today? So first things first, we'll be discussing the recent changes to Unity and discussing my own and the community's thoughts on things. So to begin, first things first, what is Unity? Unity is a game creation engine. It is a software company that makes Unity engine. Which is an engine that so many developers of extremely popular games use across every single platform. Games like Among Us, games like Cult of the Lamb, games like Pokemon Go, games like Genshin Impact, and that's just scratching the surface of the list of games that are on Unity Engine that we all love and enjoy. Now, why are we talking about Unity today? So, very recently, they've come up with a new pricing model that they're looking to introduce January 1st, 2024. Now, just that alone, you're probably like, okay, whatever. It's corporations doing what corporations do, yada yada yada. You know what I'm saying? But the reason we're talking about it is they are under extreme attack, which in my opinion personally, which we'll sort of see as I go on about this, it's kind of deserved why they're going to get attacked, but they're under extreme scrutiny because essentially due to the new pricing model, every single, or not every single download, but every single new download will essentially charge a developer who created the game a fee. And now, so beforehand, you only had to pay a certain amount. It was like 369 for the cheapest. Maybe that was in pounds. I don't know what the conversion rate there is, but it was like $300 for the cheapest, up to like $2,040 to pay yearly to use Unity's services. So that would be $2,040 for Unity Enterprise, 300 or so for this one. I'm assuming, but this right here is the new model they were looking to introduce January 1st, 2024. So essentially, for every install after you meet these thresholds right here, you would have to pay Unity either zero, I don't know why I said zero, 15 cents per install, or 0.75 cents per install, or zero point 0.3 cents per install, or zero point 0.2 cents per install. Now, that does not sound insane. Don't get me wrong, that really doesn't sound crazy. But it really adds up with some of these games. Like, it really adds up. So, the creator of Muck and Crab Game. Now, those are very niche games. Don't get me wrong. They weren't super small. They blew up for the time they did. But they were honestly really popular small games that were incredibly fun. And I honestly played both of them. Crab Game was modeled after the popular show Squid Games. And Muck is like almost like a silly version of like a wave defense game while also being Minecraft. Like in a weird way. But they were genuinely fun. Now, Muck was free. And free games actually get to avoid this model. But when we look at this graph, right? So the big thing that's very complex. Why can't I click on the thing? Can I click on Crab Game? What the fuck? Okay, there we go. So now that we're here, the big thing about free games is they don't have to pay because there's no, you'll never meet those revenue threshold limits, right? And he did cut that out of here, so that's a oopsie on his part. He was kind of making a joke. But the big thing on why I want to focus on is still with Crab Game alone. Crab Game was also a free game, but it had microtransactions. So if Crab Game popped over the revenue threshold with microtransactions, which there's a high chance he did, if this Unity change was implemented at this very moment, what that would mean for Crab Games developer Danny Dev TV is he would have to shell out $3.2 million, which is what I think the exact number was for just Crab Game, alone to fucking pay Unity just to use and publish the game. Now, that's pretty crazy in my opinion, especially when the developer itself probably didn't even make that much money off the game. Now, could be wrong in that aspect, but he definitely would have to pay that much. And it just kills motivation for any developer to make an extremely cheap or free quality game in fucking Unity engine. It just kills it right then and there. And now, another developer we're going to go into today is that were affected heavily by the changes was Cult of the Lamb. Now, you can see the graphic there, but I have it pulled up here. So, for those who don't know, Cult of the Lamb, very popular action roguelike, full of personality and an extremely artistic world that you can tell off looks alone. You can tell off looks alone a lot of heart and passion went into the art style and the world building alone. But the game was released in 2022 off of Unity. It averages still to this day a concurrent player base of 1,500 players every day, roughly, with a peak all-time of 56,262 players. Now, granted, it's not as large as another popular roguelike like Binding of the Isaac, which was released in 2014 and still has a concurrent player base of 1,500 players every day, roughly, with an all-time peak of 70,000 players, roughly. Nonetheless, it's still a popular game with a cult-like following for understandable reasons. Let's look at what they had to say about the new Unity changes. Unity is introducing a new runtime fee that is based on game installs. Our team specializes in Unity games. So, what's the impact on us? Well, we have future projects in the pipeline that were initially planned to be developed in Unity. This change would result in significant delays since our team would need to acquire an entirely new skill set. At Massive Monster, our mission has been to support and promote new emerging indie games. The introduction of these fees by Unity could pose significant challenges for those aspiring developers. Now, essentially what that means is Cult of the Lamb, Massive Monster, they would completely have to relearn an entirely new engine because they're so hurt by Unity. These price increases are too much kind of deal. Those things are pushing companies away. So therefore, they're going to go to things like Unreal Engine 5, which is completely free until you publish a game on Epic or Steam. Now they do have charges for that, and I'll delve into that later, nonetheless. Or there's other options that will also go into later, like Godot or FNA. There are other options. The only difficult thing that really sucks for companies like Massive Monster is they've spent years, maybe months. Like they don't specifically say the time length, but they've spent an indeterminate amount of time that is definitely longer than 2 months on a game in Unity. That means all of that time, if they switch to another engine, is not only wasted, but now they have to set themselves even farther back than they were before they even started, because they have to completely relearn this new engine from scratch that they do not understand how to use, and take it and restart building the game that they were potentially almost finished making in Unity, purely because of the trust broken and changes made to Unity's system and the fact that it charges so much. Because not only are you getting the yearly charges still, you're also now getting the royalties, which is a little much in my opinion. And now granted, It would be really infuriating to go through all those things for Massive Monster. I really hope Unity doesn't. I really hope they backstep so Massive Monster can at least get the chance to finish what they were doing in Unity before deciding to move on. Because I couldn't imagine what it's like going through that. But hopefully Unity will get the gist. Otherwise, lovely games like Cult of the Lamb with its own thriving fan base will end up being completely deleted from stores, so they aren't forced to pay Unity's millions of dollars, if not thousands of dollars, in fees. And I'm sure other games will follow suit and be completely deleted off of the internet, which is insane to me. Now, the third developing studio we're going to go in today is Megacrit. So Megacrit here, right? They created the hit game Slay the Spire, and I honestly played this game. I really enjoyed Slay the Spire. It's a roguelike deck building game where you push through levels defeating monsters, bosses, and building your deck as you go. It's incredibly enjoyable if you're looking for a bit of a grind with a couple of different, with enough differences in playstyles where you can do how you want to play and still succeed at the game. So it's definitely an enjoyable card game I can recommend to anyone. But very similarly to Massive Monster, they claim if this new Unity pricing model goes into effect, that will completely halt all work on the next game that they've been building in Unity for the last 2 years and restart the process completely in a different engine that they will have to relearn how to use and create assets in, which could take them months or even years to just get to where they were in Unity. Now, due to the changes Unity starting to push at the start of the year, it has even caused Megacrit to go and make a public statement, which has never happened before. They've never spoken ever. So let's take a look at that and see what they had to say on the situation. The Megacrit team has been hard at work these past 2+ years on a new game. But unlike Slay the Spire, the engine we have been developing it in is in Unity. The retroactive pricing structure of retime fees is not only harmful in a myriad of ways to developers, especially indie developers, it is also a violation of trust. We believe Unity is fully aware of this, seeing as they have gone as far as to remove their TOS from GitHub, which I just want to pause for 2 seconds on. Now, I'm not, legally smart, I guess. I don't know all the laws. Cut that out. I don't know all the laws, but I feel like it should be illegal to remove your terms of service. How are you... That is what people are supposed to look at when things are legally, or things happen within the game. Someone breaks TOS, they get permabanned, you know what I mean? How are they supposed to argue that if they can't even look at TOS? Obviously that's with a game. I don't know exactly what their TOS with Unity might have within. Maybe that's something I should have researched, and that's a lesson for the future. But essentially, extremely scummy move. I don't think I could trust a company that just fucking took their TOS out because they were under scrutiny. But despite the amount of time and effort our team at Megacrit has already poured in development on their new tile, we will be migrating to a new engine unless the changes are completely reverted and TOS protections are put in place. And with the final statement they say, we have never made a public statement before, that is how badly you fucked up. And to me, that is a hilarious, but almost honest and deserved statement. Unity has really fucked up and has hurt the trust of so many developers. And companies like this, where they aren't even that massive, but they have their own thriving fan base with a game like Slay the Spire, they've never had the need to speak out to their fans or just out publicly before until you fucked up. And it's just astonishing to me how so many games are going to be restarted almost. I mean, this is the second developing studio we talked about today, and they already have to fucking and we're already with both of them they're potentially years. One of them is 2+ years into it. The other one might also be the same far, like, length into building their new game, and they've got to completely restart. And for Unity, hearing from MegaKit, that's definitely not what you want to hear as a game creation engine from a popular indie creator the first time they ever speak publicly, let alone addressing you specifically. Now, the fourth developing studio we're going to bring up today is Relogic. So Relogic, if you don't know, they are the ones who created Terraria. Terraria, if you've been living on a rock for the last 20 years, maybe you don't know about Terraria, but Terraria is essentially like, fuck, I'm going to cut that out. Terraria is essentially a massive 2D action-adventure sandbox game, which is very similar to the other very popular hit sandbox game, Minecraft. Terraria was created in May 2011. Still to this day, though, it boasts a concurrent player base of roughly 26,000 players on just Steam alone, with an all-time peak of 500,000 roughly players. So it's an insanely massive game. And with that being only the Steam player base, it's loved across all platforms such as Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, Android, and iOS mobile devices, and all types of PCs, whether it's Windows, Linux, Mac, it doesn't matter, Terraria is there. So I'm sure the Steam counter is just a very, very small sliver of the actual fan base surrounding Terraria at this point. So Relogic themselves have spoken out about how they feel on the Unity changes and how they're going to react to it. So let's take a look at this graphic and see what they had to say. The team at Relogic has been watching the recent events surrounding Unity with both interest and sadness. The loss of formerly leading and user-friendly game engine to darker forces that negatively impact so much of the gaming industry has left us dismayed, to put it mildly. While we do not personally use Unity outside of a few elements of their console and mobile platforms, we feel like we cannot sit idly by as these predatory moves are made against studios everywhere. And I just want to say, after reading the first paragraph alone, absolutely GOAT statement so far. While it's not going to directly affect them that much, they just, I mean, with the absolute destruction of trust from Unity to game developers and everything going on, they just cannot let things like that slide. People need to be held responsible. And if not just held responsible, there needs to now be different things and avenues so people are not forced to essentially pay millions, if not thousands of dollars to Unity just to use their services every year. But continuing on, we unequivocally condemn and reject the recent TOS fee changes proposed by Unity and the underhanded way they were rolled out. Take a big note at that. A lot of these developers seem to be feeling the same way. Honestly, if Unity talked to people more and actually used their thoughts about making a new pricing structure instead of just having all those discussions behind closed doors and then saying, hey guys, this is what we're doing next year, right? Then if they worked with the development studios that were the ones that make Unity what it is essentially, then the trust might not have been broken. But continuing on, the flippant manner with which years of trust cultivated by Unity were cast aside for yet another way to squeeze publishers. Continuing on that note, studios and gamers is the saddest part. That this move was wholly unnecessary pushes things into a tragedy category, a cautionary tale the industry will soon, or not soon, forget, sorry. But essentially, they're just harping on it so hard because it seems everyone feels this way. It's much less about the money, but much more about the trust. You didn't talk to the people that make you what you are. Because here's the thing, you can be Unity all you want, but if nobody uses you, you're nothing. You don't make money. You don't get anywhere. You don't make games. It's the development studios. Even if they're small indie ones, they still make you money. Without the small indie ones, the big ones don't exist. So, you have to keep that trust. You are one and the same. It's like a Kitchen Nightmares episode I saw the other day. This lady lived in fucking Baltimore, right? And apparently it's really popular to call people hun. It's a very popular slang term in Baltimore. And this lady, her restaurant was named Cafe Huns, which is fine. But she tried to trademark the word hun, which she did, and then went and sent cease and desist out to people for using it. And it's like, her restaurant failed and went to shit. It's because you have to uphold that relationship with the customers. You cannot be one-sided in a thing like this, an industry where it's a two-part thing. It doesn't matter if it's video games, restaurants, or what. You are yourself. You have to keep yourself and the employees happy. But not only that, you have to keep the customers in mind and happy. Because eventually, they're going to get fucking fed up. Now, sometimes they don't. You get lucky and you can be greedy as fuck. But more often than not, you will get fucked for doing shit like this. So, continuing on, we do not feel a public statement alone is sufficient. Even if Unity were to recant their policies and statements, the destruction of trust is not so easily repaired. Continuing harping on the trust. We strongly feel that it is now equally important to get behind some of the other up-and-coming open-source game engines, lighting some candles in an otherwise dark moment. To that end, we are donating $100,000 to each of the open-source engines listed below. Additionally, we are sponsoring each of these projects with $1,000 a month each moving forward. All that we can ask in return is that they remain good people and keep doing all that they can to make these engines powerful and approachable for developers anywhere. And now that alone is a genuinely beautiful statement to me, right? Throughout all this broken trust, all this like dark times, as even they like to say, with darker forces in this, throughout all this, they're able to cast a very, very, very bright light on the situation. Because at the end of the day, even if Unity wasn't an asshole, and Unity didn't break the trust with everyone, new game engines coming into the scene and becoming just as good as Unity can never be bad for the game economy. Because all that's going to do is continue to push games forward. It's going to continue to push these creation engines further and further beyond. Because if you're not better than your competition, why are you doing it at all? So they're going to continue moving forward. So it's really, really, really amazing to see something like this from the developers at Relogic. It's just absolutely astonishing when a massively successful studio or company truly stands up for what's right and continues to move the industry forward in a positive light. Because too often these days, corporations, whether it be development studios, whether it be, any type of corporation, any type of business becomes the greedy, like, slime bag that's going to do anything they can to earn $1, even if it's raising the rent $500 a month on a single mother working 3 jobs. It doesn't matter to him. He's making money. That's all he cares about. But it's so amazing when a studio or company like this does what Relogic is doing. A lot of people could take a lesson from this kind of decision as individuals as well. And I'm sure even companies, or cut that out. I know companies can take a lesson from this as well, because I guarantee you this decision alone has earned Relogic adorations and fans that weren't even connected to Terraria, the game that grossed them their fan base in the first place. And like that, I truthfully believe they have gotten plenty of fans from this alone. Because me personally, I didn't really play Terraria, but I absolutely love Relogic as a company now. And all I have to say to finish off Relogic is keep being amazing, Relogic. We absolutely love you. So now we're talking about how this could affect a specific game in a specific scenario, just to play devil's advocate for complete fun here. So Rust has a massive cheating issue due to their lackluster cheat engine, easy anti-cheat. While it claims to be an industry-leading service to deter and detect cheaters, it seems, at least in Rust's case, it's riddled with issues, with one with one Redditor complaining that they were falsely banned, that they even tried to appeal to both Facepunch and EAC directly with proof showing they didn't use any third-party software on top of their accounts, stats not changing whatsoever, even though EAC claimed that they were banned due to using third-party software. You would think if you're cheating in an FPS, your KDA would jump up drastically due to having inhuman ability to just snap to people's heads and just boom, you never miss. It's a straight beam. Like, have you ever seen an aimbotter in like Fortnite or PUBG or Apex or any of those? They can shoot you from across the map with, like, not even thinking. They could be looking at their second monitor watching a fucking movie, holding down the fucking trigger, and boom, you're fucking dead. You might have spent 10 hours grinding your ass off to get everything you ever worked for, and boom, cheater deletes you from the game. You've lost everything. Now, you've got to go work your 12-hour shift that you should have went to sleep 7 hours ago for, then come home, sleep 2 hours because you fucking dead. Then you're gonna wake up, play another 8 hours of Rust or something, and then boom, cheater, bang, dead. Lose all your progress once again. It's a repeating cycle of nothing but hell. Yet even though the Redditor had proof of them not cheating, they were essentially told, nah, we got it ourselves. We got proof. You can fuck off. You're not getting banned. You're gonna stay banned. Another individual by the name of Logan made a post directly to Rust forums. That's what you see on screen. They started playing again. Doop. Cut. They go into depth about the issues where cheaters in Rust will essentially get banned. They will hack. They will get banned, then they will go to a website to where they can buy stolen Rust accounts for either $5 or less, which is insanely cheap. So, what that means is they can continue the rinse and repeat cycle. They have zero repercussions or deterrences to keep them from directly hopping back on to continue cheating and continue terrorizing the community. Because who can't piss out $2, $5 for a fucking account? I mean, you might not want to, but I guarantee you most people can ship out $5 for an account. And if you are a psycho enough to love this game that much that you're constantly cheating on it, you're probably going to be willing to pay $5 for an account, I'll tell you what. So, since there's little to no repercussions or deterrences, it continues the rinse and repeat cycle. So, the idea on how changes to Unity could actually be beneficial to a game like Rust. Another Reddit post I discovered says, and I quote, "The Rust cheat community has already a working reinstall script for Rust with a unique hardware spoofer on each install." So what that would mean is every time they run this script, it's going to continue reinstalling Rust, but since it's a unique hardware spoofer, it's going to count as a first-time install each time. So what that means with these new Unity changes is the developer of the game would not be able to abuse the cheating system anymore. Because while they could buy really cheap accounts to replay Rust again, they still would have to buy Rust. Or, like, something along those manners when they get that new Steam account, if it didn't already have Rust. Because most of the time, these Rust cheaters, they will buy stolen Steam accounts. Not just, like, Rust accounts. Stolen Steam accounts. Because they'll go for literally pennies on the dollar. And then with these stolen Steam accounts, they'll rebuy Rust. So the developers of Rust currently, without these Unity changes, just get to sit there and rake in that dough from these cheaters. They just like, oh man, we don't want you to cheat, but fuck, keep paying us money. I mean, they pay them more money than the actual players of the game who are loyal and love the game. They're just like, oh, money, baby, money. So that's why they never have actually made any differences to the cheating system for Rust. So this would fuck that right in the ass. No lube, no nothing, dry hole pushed in like it's fucking Billy Bob. Fucking what's the guy we used as a kid? I used to fucking say if you go to jail, he's gonna get you. What's his name? Big Bubba. Big Bubba's gonna get you and he's gonna raw dog you. Fucking dry, no lube. That's what this will be for fucking Rust developers at Facepunch, because every installs you're gonna get that 15 cent to like 2 cent charge or whatever it was. You're gonna get that little charge, and when you get that little charge, each time you will have to pay. It doesn't matter that it's a cheating system. That they won't be able to detect that. More than likely, I imagine. So it would force them to actually stop the cheating issue. You would have to IP ban people. Do something along those lines to where one person cannot in just like continue like acquiring accounts to play the same game on and continue to ruin the community at Rust. So, moving forward, while it sounds nice, don't get me wrong, at the end of the day, in my opinion, the Unity changes are still bad. And it will hurt the overall gaming developing community. In this situation, it can be positive, but that's only due to the development studio already being extremely greedy and not fixing the game issues like constant reoffending cheaters themselves. So what I hope is we can get two good end goals out of this situation. The first being face punch so the developers of Rust can learn their lesson and actually put out a product that isn't riddled with cheaters, encouraging them to continue cheating so they can continue filling their pockets with dirty players' money. The other goal is Unity's like engine learn that it's important to maintain trust and openness with all of their developers and communities that the engine is built upon and not act greedily to attempt to fill their pockets, even if it means burning bridges with most, if not all, game developers. So to wrap things up, I definitely think this overall is a bad stance to take from Unity. It might not have gone over so poorly if they at least discuss and talk to developers more about the changes they are thinking about implementing in the future instead of just dropping a post and saying, guys, these are the changes we're implementing in the future. Suck it up and pay me my money or fuck off. The reason I think for sure most developers is angry, and as I harped on a lot like this, and you saw most of them in studios also harped on this, the fact that they are angry is because their trust was broken. For so long, companies have been able to vibe on the yearly payment to Unity without having to pay royalties on games, which made Unity. It made it so loved because of that. You didn't have to pay royalties, so you could just do your thing on Unity after paying that one yearly charge. And it had its advantages, because without having to pay the royalties, I mean, you just pay $2,000 a year, and let's say your game makes $100 million, you can pocket that. You can pocket that completely and put it towards your next game. Now, its biggest competitor that we brought up once, Unreal Engine 5, which is Epic Games' game creation engine. It only charges a flat 5% if you post your games to Steam Marketplace. Whereas if you do it on Epic Games Store, it's 12% royalties per game after $1 million revenue are made from the game, both for Steam and Epic Games if you use Unreal Engine 5. Now, the reason it's only 5% if you put it on Steam is because Steam Marketplace itself already has a 30% revenue royalty take in, so like it itself has enough as it is. So that was the flip side of the coin from Unreal Engine. But the thing with Unreal Engine and why it had its own benefit to it is you didn't have to pay the yearly fee for team members to use it. Anyone can use Unreal Engine. I can use Unreal Engine. I don't know how, but I have it installed. I thought about fucking around with it. I can use it. I could make a game with it and just post it. Now, it's just if I would make money over $1 million, I'd have to pay them every time. And don't get me wrong, that is kind of a lot. When you get really up there, it's a bit of money. But that's why the biggest benefit to Unity was you just had to pay a pretty big yearly fee to just use the service. There was no royalties. All the money made from your product and your art and your game that you spent all that time working on comes to you. And you can either pocket it if you want, or you can feed that back into your studio to make more games with the engine and continue paying that yearly fee. And I'm sure there was enough fucking companies using Unity that they were making more than enough money off these yearly subscriptions. But that was the differences to the two, and that was what made Unity Unity. So when you look at the way this new pricing model looks, it's not completely outrageous. It just looks like it's trying to match its competitors' fees. But granted, I don't think you should use both the game engine and charge for the game creation engine and also take revenue from the games made on the engine. Because I mean, Epic Games does do that. I mean, if you do that, you're essentially blind daylight robbing people. They have to pay upwards of $2,000 for every single person in their development studio to just use Unity, and now you're taking a big percentage of their revenue depending on how much the game costs. Because the prices you saw on that first infographic, which I'll bring up again for 2 seconds here, this doesn't change for how much the game costs. If your game costs $70, you could be paying 0.15 cents per install. But if it costs $1, you could still be paying 0.15 cents per install. Which is more like an insane number. It should change at least. Or you shouldn't have the yearly fees. It just doesn't, it almost just doesn't make sense at all. So, I think you should do one or the other. But nonetheless, the biggest thing here that you need to note from this, for any companies out there, any sort of like business or anything, you need to be open with the people who are the reason your product even exists. I'm sure this will be an example set in stone for future. I'm sure like companies will get the gist, at least with game creation engines. If you burn the trust of the people who make you successful, you are doomed to fail. Only time will tell if this turns out to be the case. Thank you all. For anyone who took the time to listen to me on this rant, it is by far the most effort I've ever put into a video, and it means a lot to me for anyone who has watched this. And as always, much love, and I'll catch you guys next time.